covered both areas. I've covered journalism as a profession, and I've covered business. And today I'm full-time as an investor and really with a lot of involvement in stock markets. So clearly, I've seen both sides of the spectrum. And therefore, I would like to hopefully give you useful advice, not an academic discussion on what the economy looks like, what are the numbers. We will go over that. Those numbers are also important. But please see it in context of what hopefully you can take some lessons from here today, which will really help you in your life's journey for the next 20, 30 years. And I'd like to share those thoughts. That is my really true intent today. And to begin with, when I say that we are looking at, let's say, the next 20 or 30 years, when we talk about India of 2050, and that is the relevant period for the next 30 years of your working life, I'm asking you to anticipate what is happening. It's very difficult. We believe that anticipating what will happen 20 years from now or 30 years now is very difficult. Trust me, it is not so much difficult because we do it every day. In a sense that when I get out from home, I anticipate when I drive my car, I look forward, I try to anticipate if a car will come and hit my car or not. So we do it. No, we do it in the short term every time. It is just that we are not used to thinking long term. So we don't plan our day 1 week in advance. We don't plan our day 1 month in advance. I would suggest some of us, at least in few activities, we start doing it. If we do that, it will be very useful. I will give you some very interesting examples of how anticipation and lack of anticipation have really made and unmade certain large corporations. I remember in the early 90s, you would have all heard about a company called Kodak. Kodak was a company which dominated the photo film industry for 200 years. They were the absolute giants. They were the Apples and they were the Googles, alphabets of what we see today as giants. Kodak was a company, all cinema films, all photographic films, all cameras, everything was Kodak. It was a huge company. I mean, you can call it like $1 trillion company of those days. And that was in the 1890s, not very far back. I talk about 20 years. And then they were doing well. They were kind of going ahead. In fact, Oscars that we talked 20 years ago, Oscars were kind of invented, started by a Kodak company, and then the US Film Academy kind of took over. So they were that big. In 1990s, one of their engineers actually invented something called digital camera. And initially they had no clue. But they just thought that this is digital imaging, we'll store our films, photographs on this. And they failed to anticipate the change that a digital camera will bring to the world of photography. And believe me, it was so difficult those days. Every photograph used to be very expensive. It would cost 30, 40 rupees to click a photograph. If a photograph goes waste, today we just take our phones and click 100 photographs. Those days, each photograph would cost 20, 30, 40 rupees. It was very difficult. They failed to anticipate that change in 1994-95. And a $200 million company was wiped out in the next 10 years. By 2005, they filed for bankruptcy. And it no longer exists. Those are no, you will see, I have similar examples, many examples. If you look at MTNL, the phone in 80s and 90s was a possession. I mean, you had to wait for 10 years to get a phone connection. I don't know, you are all millennials, so you have been born post 2010, so you may not appreciate it. But getting a phone connection was a very big thing. So nobody thought MTNL would ever be wound up. Today, you know, I mean, it is irrelevant. This company is completely kind of not in the, I mean, they're not in business yet. I have many more examples. I can go on and on. And many new products kind of came in that period. So it is not that anticipation, and these companies are the ones that would not see the change. As an individual, I mean, this when we started, when we passed from college, those days, no, if you became a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer, for a benefit, I'm just sharing this. But thought that would be ultimate. If you became a mechanical engineer, you became a civil engineer, electrical engineer, you get a good steady job, very good. I mean, you have your life made. If those who became IT engineers, or those who anticipated that okay, this is going to information technology is going to be different, then I think their life was made, because today if you're not in IT, then clearly a lot of those opportunities have been lost. So anticipating change is a very big thing. I would really urge you as youngsters to be aware of change all the time and to try to anticipate it. Now, how do we, just before I start the lecture, there are a few touchstones that I want to really share with you. And towards the end of this lecture, there are a few personal finance tips I would like to give you. See, we all want to be rich. But how do you become rich? It's not an accident. You don't become rich by accident. You become rich by a certain discipline, by following a certain method. Nobody in this world became, somebody got a lottery, one in billions type, but most of the people that you see around yourself who became rich, I'm sure all of you want to become rich, prosperous. Then there are certain basic principles that you have to follow. I'm not saying you become Mukesh Ambani, but you will be pretty financially secure, you will be quite happy financially. And it is a matter of following certain simple principles in life. When I talk about, there's another touchstone which I must emphasize, and I was just speaking about this with Amreshji just now. Then when we talk about anticipating change, how do we anticipate change? Again, it is not something that we are born with, in a sense. You anticipate change when you're knowledgeable. If you have a wider sense of knowledge, and here I would like to underline the right knowledge. There's a lot of data, there's a lot of information going around these days. We need to be aware of the knowledge that we want, because there's too much data, too much information all around us. Therefore, I would emphasize right knowledge is very important. Here, I make a comment because you are youngsters in college. I was there 30 years back in our MBA institutes and our colleges, engineering colleges. Look, I know you want to kind of take this. See, the ability, and I regret this to some extent from those days. See, knowledge will come from our teachers. We need not like all the teachers. It's not that we liked all the teachers that we had. But when I look back on life, the teachers that we did not respect, see, I didn't have to like them, but I still should have respected them. The teachers I did not respect, those subjects I could never master in my life. Even when those teachers had left, because inherently, I did not have respect for the knowledge of that subject itself. So please, I would say that teachers are, in our own traditional sense, when we say gurus, they're important. Even if you don't like, I'm saying this, I know we, as youngsters, we never liked all of them. Respect them. Because the knowledge, or at least the sense of respect towards knowledge that you have from your teachers will be extremely useful for you in the long run. I really, if I were to go back 30 years, I would correct a lot of that mistakes that I made in those days. Sorry for this bit of digression, but I think important points that I would like to share. I do that with my son and daughter. I'd like to share it with youngsters here. Now, so let's go back to the point that where is our economy headed? And what is in it for you? See, the question is that, talking about numbers, talking about where this country will go, that is fine. Ultimately, it is about us. It is about what can I benefit, or how could I benefit from this growth, and where should I go? That is the key to this discussion. So when I say that, okay, let's look ahead for next 20 or 30 years, I would like to, in fact, go back 20 or 30 years, because we have to look back where we were 30 years back, and what has happened in 30 years. That is when I started my professional career in 1990. So where have we come in 30 years? And from there, then we can have a sense of where we can go in the next 10, 20, 30 years. So if I look back, and 1990 also was a very important year, because that was the year when the great economic liberalization started. I hope, and I'm sure you will understand what India was like before 1990 and after 1990. Before 1990, India was a country of chronic shortages. There was nothing available. No electricity, no water, no houses, no steel. You can't imagine what the country of 1990 was. I'll give an example. The GDP is basically the total income of all goods and services produced in an economy in 1 year. That is how GDP is defined. Simply stated, you can say it is the total income of all the people in the country. So my personal income, your personal income, if you all put together and we add it for every individual in the country, that is equal to the GDP of the country. So the total GDP, that is the total income of all the people in India put together, was 6 lakh crores in 1991. That was GDP of India. 30 years from then, today, the GDP is 210 lakh crore. That means it has gone up by about 30-35 times in 30 years. To also underline the importance of this further, let me explain to you. So in 1991, the population was 84 crore of India. 84 crore people together earned something like 6 lakh crores, which translates into 6,000 rupees per, roughly 6,000 rupees per annum. So that was the average income of an individual in India in 1990 for all Indians on an average. Of course, there are people who are earning more and less, but average income 6,000 rupees per person per year. Today, that income is roughly 1,40,000 crores per person per year. So GDP has gone. If you look at it another way, so 84 crore people were earning 6 lakh crores. Today we are about 134 and we are earning 210 lakh crores. On an average, this is, so the income has gone back. In average, India has become richer by about 20 times. Same people have become richer by 20 times. This is what has happened in 30 years. So that is the way economy has happened. And it wasn't so in the previous years. The previous, if you go back previous 30 years, we barely grew. In fact, our the rate of growth at that time, so if you look at past 30 years, we have grown at an average about 6% GDP in real terms. If I go 30 years before, from 1950 to 1980, we were growing barely at 2%, which was then called kind of insultingly by the Western power as Hindu rate of growth. If you read that term in economics, you will read that you should call it Hindu rate of growth. We grow at 2%, 2.5%, and that is what happened. So what changed? And if I look at just another example, because it also you can relate to these things. In 1991, India was producing 25,000 vehicles per year. That means including scooters, motorcycles, cars, 25,000 vehicles per month. Roughly 3 lakh vehicles we used to produce in a year. That is what we had achieved in 1991. Today we produce roughly 20 lakh vehicles every month. From 25,000 vehicles per month, now we have 20 lakh vehicles per month. So that is how the consumption and the prosperity of this country is grown 100 times in certain sectors. Steel production was barely 8, 9, 10 million tons per annum. We are now the world's second largest producer of steel in the world. We are 110 million tons every year. Per capita income, of course, I've mentioned. So India has become much prosperous in the last 20, 30 years. And here, I would like to say that we are going to continue that trend. So those of you who anticipate this correctly, those people who had anticipated in 1990, let's say a company like Infosys, it saw in 1990, or even a company like Hero Honda. I had a personal experience of the former MD, who unfortunately died now, Mr. Daman Munjal, and I narrated my interaction with him in 1991. I was a journalist, I met him, and he was producing 10,000, 5,000 motorcycles every month. And he told me at that time that one day we will produce 10 lakh motorcycles per month. I said, sir, why are you joking? This is from 5,000 he was about 10 lakh motorcycles. And they are nearly there. So clearly he foresaw. And that company, so those who are smart investors, they bought shares at 15 rupees per share. And today, if I combine all these bonuses and expenses, from 15 rupees, the wealth has gone, the stock will be down only 30,000 rupees per share. Of course, people like Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, again, my personal friend, we really had to talk to him. He has multiplied his wealth from 2 crores, 3 crores in 1981 to 20,000 crores now. There are people who really understood what is happening in India. A lot of people did not understand that, where they are. So, clearly, the ability to see where the economy is going is very important. Now, I'm not saying that everything is rosy with this economy. So, while we we know that we are growing, while we know that there are great opportunities for all of us, for all of you in various professions that you choose, there will be great opportunities. So you have to choose your profession carefully first of all, to see where that profession is going in the next 20, 30 years. And within that, where your expertise will lie, where your knowledge will, because this is going to be a knowledge economy. That we are very clear. It is no longer about owning land, owning building, owning capital. No. It is now about owning knowledge. We've seen that with a lot of unicorns. I'll again come to them a bit later. But I'm not saying that we are in a very happy place. I would like to be happy. I'm doing well in life. I would like to be rich or more prosperous. So, like in India, when we say, if I just compare that we have come to $2,000 per capita income now, but China has gone to $10,000 per capita income. Singapore is $50,000 per capita. America is 65. So all the developed countries are $50,000 plus per capita income. That of course, they are richer countries. They are kind of more prosperous. And so what happened? Definitely more prosperous countries. Even our neighbors, if you look at Thailand, if you look at Indonesia, Malaysia, or the so-called ASEAN tigers, they have also got $4,000, $5,000 per capita income. And I would really be happy if in the next 5 years or 10 years we reach that speed. Because $4,000, $5,000 per capita income is where we can really fight poverty. Nobody will face shortages, nobody will face hardships, financial hardships. So we want to be that area. And as I go forward, I will discuss with you what are the trends which are going on. So you'll have some pointers where we see the growth of the next 20 years, 30 years will come, and you can then kind of position for it. So my proposition is that we work towards the $5,000 per capita income for the country as a whole. And where will that growth come from? So I now let's move to that aspect, and how you can kind of prepare for that opportunity. Again, I take the example of stock markets in a sense, because the stock market really distills the whole essence of economy in a few numbers. So you can see if a company is doing well or a sector is going to do well, then invariably you see the stocks of that sector or that company doing well. So clearly, ability to look at the long-term trends becomes easier if you are looking at the numbers of a stock price of a certain company. So when you look at TCS or Infosys or HCL Technologies, you can easily say that these companies are doing well, they have earned so much, and that will happen. So when I look at the next, let's say, 10 or 20 years, I would just like to draw attention towards what happened in the last 30 years. Again, over 30 years, I've broken that into 3 decades. So we had the decade of 1990, when the reforms actually first came in. And what happened in those 10 years? And then, of course, the 2000s, and then 2010 to 2020. And now, today, in 2020, we stand at the start of a new decade. And trust me, every decade has its own trend, has its own flavor. You will find, and when I just narrate you a few incidents, then you will probably appreciate that 90s were very certain sectors. 2000s were belong to certain sectors, similarly to healthcare. 90s were really the sector of manufacturing, because we were, like I described earlier, there were no motorcycles being produced, no steel being produced, no housing being produced. So clearly when liberalization happened, the manufacturing sector grew very rapidly. So we had more factories producing steels, motorcycles, cars, etc., etc. So manufacturing was the first half of 1990s, and then we certainly 96, 97 onwards, I remember the first time the concept of business process outsourcing, BPO, which is what Infosys, we started calling it body shopping at that point of time. The Y2K problem came. So the first green shoots of IT industry actually came in 96, 97, that year. Infosys itself was founded in 93, 94. So in fact they went public as well. But the 90s really belonged to manufacturing. And even the IT services which came were actually supporting manufacturing. So the Y2K, all the Y2K activities, all the software activities were basically in support of manufacturing. So we were trying to boost manufacturing in those times. Even IT was focused on that. And 90s were really the business to be in terms of manufacturing, in terms of industrial activity. So you put up bigger factories for motorcycles, for cars, for phones, for textiles, or whatever, cement, etc. So it was a happy place to be there. To be there. You know, if you were a mechanical engineer or you were a civil engineer, it was good. The year 2000, and that is when post 2000, I'm sure most of you were born around that time. The real transformation of the economy started, which is where the services sector started going. Now, services sector is where humans are more important. No, machines are less important. Land is less important. So, 2000 is when I think the economy took the definitive turn towards growth of services. So you find telecom services. Telecom services became such a large part of our economy. 2000 onward, before 2000, cellular phones were there. They were very expensive. Very few people used it. And it was not a mass product. In any case, we did not see it as an economic force. 2000 onwards, when telecom companies started growing, and they started transforming the economy. It was not about just talking on phone. We all know smartphones and apps and this and that. The truth is that nobody could have anticipated that telecom is going to transform itself into like e-commerce, media streaming service. So telecom, the services, they started growing. And that is where the fun for us lies, because services, again, is not something that you have to be born rich to become rich. I mean, anybody with knowledge can become rich. And that is where services as human beings came in. The other area, so telecom became very big in services. We saw banking and financial services becoming very big. Banking and retail, of course, you went to the bank, you check there, stand, you used to do lines. Suddenly, financial services, they became digital, so you could do net banking. That started growing. Because early days, but because of the rise of the digital economy, we started seeing financial services. That you had insurance, you had distribution of financial products, all these. So services came to the fore. So if you look at, so HDFC Bank, which was founded somewhere in 95, 96, suddenly in 2000 we find that HDFC Bank, because it was a services bank, it was not looking at banking as in the old paradigm, HDFC Bank of financial services companies, they became big. Housing loan companies became big, and because of housing loans, more houses were built. So that kind of started becoming very important. So services clearly became the real boom. Of course, with services, you saw the real economy sector go. So real estate started booming. People had more purchasing power in the 2000s. They started earning more, incomes are going up already, and we saw real estate do very well. Then hospitals, healthcare, tourism. We started traveling. You can't believe traveling earlier was such a luxury. I mean, very few rich people would go for travel or tourism. And West, so Indian culture very effectively, like very smart our ancestors were. So they invented Tirth Yatra as the tourism thing, and they mixed Tirth Yatra with tourism because they knew that people did not find it easy to go for travel. So you find a lot of these pilgrimages were actually tourism, and which was then repackaged as pilgrimages. So people had motivation to do it. So, but of course, as we grew more prosperous, as we grew richer, we started seeing that tourism picked up. Early, and 2000 also again, you see similarly 90s, mid-90s you started seeing the emergence of IT services companies. Somewhere in 2005, we started to see the emergence of these so-called startups. So Facebook was started, Twitter was started. Before that we had email, the internet was mostly email, if you remember. Most people used for email. Very few people really used it as an effective tool of information sharing. But 2005 onward we saw startups happening. Facebook came in, Twitter came in, Amazon was there earlier, but they were kind of started growing a little bit more. Google realized that the power of internet is going to be there. Microsoft, of course, started expanding their offerings. So please remember this. 2005, we see that the startup industry started growing. It was mostly in US, not in India. Most of the startups were there. I ask you to remember this because we will then go to the next decade. And therefore, please notice that it takes about 10 years for an industry to start maturing and to come into its own. So IT services started in 1995 onwards. 2005-6, after 10 years, that industry really started. The development of the industry started. Similarly, startups which came up as a concept in 2005-6 onwards, they really came into their own 2014-15 onwards, and after 10 years, we will see that now they are becoming more important. And that is what tells you also, because today the emerging trends that you see in an economy are going to become dominant trends, let's say 10 years from now. Some of them, of course, will not succeed. Many of them do fall by the way. But the trends, some of them will sustain in the next decade, and then they will come. Of course, when I come to the 2010-19, the last decade, which is what you would remember more distinctly. See, this is the time when you see all the apps or the applications of the internet, the digital economy becoming useful. Here, I'll underline again a trend which I don't know if you've noticed, but see all the apps, all the applications which have succeeded, whether we talk about Airbnb or Zomato or anything, I mean Uber, and anything, is about sharing. All these apps ultimately they do one thing. They make a large number of people share a certain resource. And all the mass, so whether we are talking about co-working or we are talking about co-living these days, when the guest houses or something are being shared, or we talk about Uber or WeWork, all these things basically focus on one thing, which is a resource, common resource, which is then shared by large number of people. The cost comes down. So going forward, we don't know what is like happen to property industry coming back a bit later. So we saw the rise of so-called FANG. The FANG, as you know, is Facebook, Apple, Alphabet, Netflix, Google. These are companies which really, which are in the sharing economy. They are using the digital platform to share a resource with large number. And most of the ideas that we see will succeed in the new digital age are basically ideas built around sharing of common resources. You may have knowledge you want to share. So all the online education apps are basically a person has knowledge. He also share his knowledge with the larger number of students. You can do it with 10,000, 50,000, 1 lakh students. So about sharing. And the digital economy, or if you are, I hope many of you go on to build applications, apps, but remember, I'll give you 4 basic questions which I have personally financed a few apps. We've been in this business, and I know what works, what doesn't work. Later on in the discussion, I'll touch upon that aspect. Basic questions that you need to answer to yourself before you actually will be able to turn that into a successful venture. So we see these 3 decades really the trends changing from manufacturing to services to digitalization to development of applications. And that gives me a clue to what is going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I'm not, of course, trying to predict 30 years. I may not be there. But you surely will be there, and you will be, those trends you will see. But let me try to make an estimate of what the next 10 years will be. Clearly, it is obvious that technology will drive the economy. So you have to be technology savvy. Absolutely. Not just applications, the concepts behind these technologies. What is the new technology coming up? Because that is, like I said earlier, it takes about 5-7 years to kind of find a base and then suddenly dominate our lives. So technology is going to be clearly the huge driver of economic activity, of prosperity, going forward. So no two ways about it. We have to be technologically savvy. Another thing which I missed actually, and I think most of you would be aware of, was in 2008 we had a huge financial crisis. Unprecedented. It's never happened in 100 years of the world's history. That certainly the largest banks in the world were collapsing. The US banking system, you may not remember those details, but I tell you, we used to be so scared in the morning. I did not know whether my bank is going to exist in the year or not. even people were scared that big banks like SBI will fail or PNB will fail. Because in America, a 300-year-old bank, Lehman Brothers, it's a 300-year-old banking institution. It just failed. And people lost their life savings in Lehman Brothers. Bank of America, American Express Bank, they didn't know. American insurance company, they are the company which was there for 300, 400 years. And overnight, they collapsed. They were not there as the money was gone. 2008, this crisis came, and I'm using a term I hope you remember because this is going to be a very important term next 10, 20 years, I think. The US invented something called the New Monetary Policy, or NMP. The US Federal Reserve Chairman at that time, Ben Bernanke. He was also called Helicopter Bernanke. He said that, look, if there is an economic downturn, I will print dollars and I will drop them from helicopter and let people have dollars for free. And so he brought in that concept of easy money. That I will print so much more dollars, so much more money, and pure paper currency that will distribute it free to people and let people then spend that money, and that is how we come out. US has done that for 10 years, very successfully, amazingly. We never thought they would succeed. They have done it. I find it surprising, and I still want to see how it plays out. Because US has, in the last 10 years, printed $4 trillion. They simply printed $4 trillion and distributed that to the banks. A lot of that money actually came into technology. So you will find no venture capital, but funding for apps. A lot of that money. That's why I said, remember this term, the new monetary policy, the easy money policy. Because that is, if this policy changes, if you find that this policy is being reversed at some point of time, be there, because you're going to have a huge economic problems ahead of it. Because that easy money will go away. Prepare yourself. I'm not saying that if we prepare ourselves for any challenges, we can face them. But we will be in either businesses or jobs or whatever. At some point of time, next, my belief is that next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we will see the negative effect of this new monetary policy, the easy money policy, being rolled back. And when that rollback will happen, there will be enormous economic hardship in the world. So we anticipate it. So one of the challenges I'm putting forth to you is that be aware of that fact. That while there will be opportunities, there will also be tremendous threats, tremendous adversities on the way. Be prepared for those adversities. Otherwise, we can thinking that there's a Goldilocks situation, everything is going to be happy. Sometimes we are not prepared for difficult times. In the next decade, we also know, and again, very important, that the great urbanization of India. See, it has happened in China. In China now, 66% population now lives in cities. In India, even today, so earlier it used to be just 25%, 25, 26%. Today we are about 45% people living in urban areas, not big cities, I would say. We are living in urban areas. My belief is that by 2030, next 10 years, a lot of population will move from villages to cities, to larger cities. Roughly, so we have an estimate, we say that about 65 to 70 crore people will be living in cities in India by 2030. I think that will open up tremendous opportunities for everybody, particularly young people, because that is where you will have opportunities to choose professions, because people in cities consume more services. They consume more media, they consume more all kinds of services, more health services, more financial services, more telecom services. In villages, of course, the consumption per capita of these services is less. They are more focused on food and fuel. Once you move to cities, then your consumption of services goes up. So one great opportunity, of course, for most young people is that they look at trends in the larger cities, and then develop those for smaller cities. Because I'll just give you an example. In India, there are 10, as of today, there are 10 cities with a population of more than 40 lakh. 20 years back, there were only 4. Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras. Today, we have 10 cities with a population of more than 10 lakh people, more than 40 lakh. And there are 55 cities in India today which have population of more than 10 lakh. So, there are 55 cities with 10 lakh plus population. there are roughly about, and what we define as towns where there are municipal services, there are about 7,000 towns in India. The possibility is that many of these 7,000 towns will actually become cities with population of 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs. So the number which is 55 today of 10 lakh people probably will become 500 in next 10, 20, 10, 15 years. So it can be that progressive. And the opportunity, of course, for most businesses, even if you look at Amazon or other people who are coming to India, is that they're learning from the larger cities, what happens in Delhi, what is the behavior of people in Delhi or larger cities, and then they want to replicate that experience in the smaller cities. Because people, when those 55 cities will become 100 cities, and those they will have 10 lakh people, then they will want similar levels of services as larger cities. So that is where the Indian businesses will go, or entrepreneurs will go. And that is, so you can look at your environment today, you can learn the technologies, and then probably if you have a smaller town to go to, smaller place, I think those, and applications based on those requirements, those are going to be great opportunities. So urbanization of India, I think, is going to be the great trend of the next 10 to 20 years. And that is where the greatest opportunity for entrepreneurs will be. And I urge you to really focus on that fact, to see which regions are growing, where people are consuming more services, and what services are there. You can take it from the existing services, or you can look at new requirements that people have. Another clear trend that we have is that the oil economy is going to decline. So automobiles and oil, I'll link the two. Definitely, in the next 10 years or so, cars will not be the same. They will change. Either people will not own cars like they own today, or there will be different kind of cars which will be shared, maybe autonomous cars, self-driving cars. We have a sense of where that direction will be, but I'm not making specific predictions. But my own sense is that the automobile industry will be completely different 10 years from now, 12 years from now, and the consumption of oil, which is the main item today. In fact, India total imports, our total imports are roughly about $500 billion a year, and out of that 25%, $20 billion plus, we import only oil. So that, I think, oil imports are going to go down, or at least going to stagnate. We will have more electric vehicles, clearly. I don't think there's any. You'll be surprised, I mean, how simple electric. I don't know if you know this, but practically all. Look, like Samsung is, earlier you used to have 3-4 big companies making cars, because car engine was a very great technology. Today, an electric vehicle is nothing but a motor with a battery, nothing else. It involves no other technology. So anybody, even somebody who's making television, can actually make an electric car. And you're going to see 100 or 1,000 companies making electric cars in the next 5 or 10 years. You will not, the Hondas of the world and the BMWs and the Mercedes, they will be history. History, unless they reinvent it. Because making an electric car is nothing. You just get a motor and you get a battery. On top of it, what features you go. So whether it's a connected car, what other features it has. But the car technology, the internal combustion engine that we know as of today, will not exist 10 years from now. Clearly. So I think that will be transformative. When you go, when you have kids, you will tell them that we used to have cars which would have petrol. You put petrol in those cars, and they'll wonder. They used to something for petrol. I'm sure 20 years from today, that is what it will be. So you have to look out for this. So industries, of course, I'm not saying that they die. Those industries also transform themselves, but you have to be aware of those trends and the opportunities that these things will bring. So I come back to the issue, the point that I raised, and from the perspective of the right community. So clearly, we have past to learn. I would urge you to study the past trends, go through, if you can, past research to understand how economy transforms, what opportunities. Personally, I would say I spent some 10-15 years in banking, in investments, and we can then find we've done well in markets, but I look forward to much. I look forward to multiplying my wealth by 10 times in the next 10, 20, 10 years or so. So clearly, I think similar opportunities are there. Just one point one thought I want to, two things I would like to say before I say. One is that when you have a startup idea, because a lot of you are going to do this, you're going to come up with a startup idea and go to a venture capitalist and say that, okay, I need money for my idea. Let me give you 4 questions, because we do this all the time. We get proposals. I ask them 4 questions. Remember these 4 questions. If you have answers to these 4 questions, then you are in business. The first question, whenever you come up with a business idea or an app, they are both the same. App is just business. Any business idea must solve a problem. You ask yourself, what problem am I going to solve? Is there a problem? Is there a need for a service? If somebody has a problem, and can I solve that problem? So first, any business idea, first answer the first question is what problem am I solving? If you do not have a clear answer to this, trust me, you don't have a business idea. Unless somebody needs your service, needs that problem to solve. So first question you ask yourself, what problem am I solving? Second question to answer is, whose problem is it? Who is the person who has that problem? I'll give you a very interesting example just to illustrate what I'm saying, because you might get this. Whose problem? The person who has that problem. Sometimes the child is sick. The problem is not the child, the problem is parents. So actually the problem is you have to find a doctor for the child, but the problem is not the parent. So second question to ask is, who is the person affected by that problem? Whose problem I am to solve? Third question, I always ask entrepreneurs when they come to us, I say, who's going to pay for it? Because not always the person whose problem it is or somebody whose problem you are solving, somebody else is paying for it. For example, in case of medical care, it is insurance company which pays for it. So marketing I may be solving the doctor's problem or a parent's problem, but actually the insurance company will pay for it. So ultimately my marketing of the idea has to do the insurance company. The parents are not going to choose the service provider. They're going to, the insurance company is going to choose, and then they're going to tell them to go and go to this so and so doctor. So problem you are solving, whose problem? Who's going to pay for it? That is very important. And final question I always say is that why only you? I mean, why are you better with what we call as sustainable differentiation? What will keep you making better? Why will you? Because the moment you come out with an idea, somebody else is going to replicate it. Somebody else is going to come with more money, with more infrastructure. Then why would I sustain to be the developer of that business idea? These 4 questions you have to constantly ask yourself. I'm not saying that you start off with that idea, but please focus on the idea. These 4 questions, remember them. They will be very important, very handy to you when you start your own businesses, when you start your own ventures. And one more small point, just 1 minute. This I learned, and I will urge you to do this. It may not sound very important right now. Please develop a habit of saving. From day 1, when you earn your first rupee, please save something. 10%, 20%, 30%, wherever you want to save. First, if you say that I'll get my phone and I will spend, and then whatever is left I'll save, it doesn't work. You always have needs, you want to spend. So the principle of saving is, when you get your income, put something aside. First you save, and then what is left you invest. I'll give you an example. There's a very popular book, I'm sure many of you may have read it, called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a story about 2 families which have similar income, they start together, and how one family becomes very rich and the other becomes, does not become so rich. And I mentioned to you that to become rich in life, to become prosperous, there are certain habits that you must develop. And the first and most important habit is, you start with 100 rupees a month. It doesn't matter, even today. You start a PPF account, you start an NPS account, you start whatever. Find a mutual fund. I don't bother whether it is 1,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees or 100 rupees. Put 100 rupees, I don't mind. Idea is that you have the appreciation of the fact that you have to save something. Just to give you one last thing. If 2 people they start, let's say youngsters like you start working tomorrow, and 2 of you get jobs together, let's say 25,000 rupees a month. One person starts saving tomorrow at 10,000 rupees per month at 8% compounding, and you continue to save for 35 years. Right? your friend who also got jobs along with you, and you start only 5 years later. So you start immediately, somebody says, no, I will spend that 10,000 rupees also and enjoy my life, and 5 years later, I will start investing. You will both retire. When you retire, the person who started earning will get roughly 10,000 per month, will become roughly 2.6 crore at the end of 35 years. And the person who started just 5 years later, that is, put in 5 lakhs less, he will get only 1.5 crores. There's a difference of more than a crore that you will make in your savings eventually. So that is the power of compounding, that is the power of savings, early savings. And so if you want to be prosperous, I will urge our friends to start saving early. I hope you get some lots of good ideas.
And for simplifying the economy in such in a lucid manner for our students in layman language so that everybody could understand. Sir will now be taking questions and you can all ask him of anything that you want to relevant to this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Puneet, for giving such insightful information because when I was working on the topic as to on what his knowledge could be shared with you all. So obviously there are two things which are very, very important, which was part of this whole topic. And then what is the current economic scenario, because, will you keep quiet? Because nowadays a lot of such things are happening which is a matter of concern for everybody, whether young or old. Old people are concerned on the issue, the kind of things which are happening in the banking sector. And then obviously youngsters are worried because if the economy is not doing well, then there are lesser opportunities for you or whichever sector we talk about, whether media or in any other sector. So, and there is a lot of emphasis for the last 15-20 years, and particularly since the time this government has taken over. Whether it's the question of emphasizing on imparting skills, whether it's a question of, as Mr. Jain pointed out, this setting up the startups, because taking up a job or searching for a job is not always a good thing in a growing economy. One has to have the entrepreneurship, one has to have the skills wherein, even if we talk about the media sector, you can set up your own news portal, or you can set up your own news channel or your own radio channel. So a lot of such avenues are there with the growth in the economy. So one must think in those areas as well. Not only this, that once you acquire the BGMC degree and then you are searching for a job in this news channel or that news channel. So that kind of thinking should be developed. So that was the idea behind the organizing this lecture on such a topic. So I believe a lot of things would have been clear to you already, but then even after this lecture, many more questions would have arisen in your mind and you want to get further clarity on those issues. So I will ask you to ask the pertinent questions to Mr. Puneet.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Joel Gupta. So I have a question that how India will cope up with the recession period, means how the jobs are getting lost and how the companies are getting very much affected with the daily routine. So how India is going to cope up following challenges?
So, Rohit, I don't think, first of all, that India will go through a recession. So we are still growing at 4.5%, 4.5%, 5%. See, why we feel this 5% is because our population also grows roughly about 1% a year, 1.5%. So that effect of growth in GDP or growth in income doesn't actually get felt that much by people. So I don't think we'll go into recession. My own take is that we, like in 1990, I did not elaborate there, but 1990 when the reform was introduced by Dr. Manmohan Singh and nursing, there was a lot of opposition. You would not believe people who have benefited from liberalization, like Bajaj Auto, Rahul Bajaj. They opposed, they in fact formed something called Bombay Club to oppose liberalization. They said we don't want this licensing to go, because they thought that only in licensing they can prosper, and there will be competition and new people will come. So structural reforms whenever they happen, and it took 3-4 years actually. Then now we look back 30 years, we see that a lot of it was good, but in 94-95 it went very bad. It was very difficult. Businesses had a lot of challenges. They were very scared. Similarly, I think India has, after having grown, and this, I'm not making politics of her, I'm saying it is an experience that whenever a country hits $2,000 per annum per capita income, this happened in China also. Whenever they hit this $2,000 per capita income, the country has to actually reinvent itself. Because we typically call it middle income trap. This happens to individuals also. You rise to a certain level of income as an individual also, and then the motivation to grow further goes up. We keep doing the old things the old way. Similarly, countries also go through this middle income trap. They get stuck, and it's $2,000, $2,500 where we are paying as India. And fortunately, we have had structural reforms. So the taxation reforms that we saw, GST, and this is a worldwide experience. GST, wherever it was introduced, the first 2-3 years were very bad for the economy. In Malaysia, GST was introduced. You're all smart, you can Google it, read it. Malaysia introduced GST in 2015. The economy went very bad. In fact, the government fell in 2007. The new government came, and they have gone and scrapped GST. They could not take it. So, structural reforms are very difficult. But my belief is that India is on the right path. We are now embarking on the next level of reforms, and that is the opportunity for you. I think 2-3 years from now, when you will look at the economy, and when we start going from here, then I think the next big thing is the $5,000. There is tremendous opportunity. Don't be disappointed. Trust me, Indian economy is going to grow well. There is going to be a lot of opportunities. Again, I urge, prepare yourself for those opportunities. If you're not prepared for those opportunities, then things can be done. So, gain the knowledge, be prepared if you want to be prosperous and prepared.
Sir, one more thing.
सर अभी आपने टेलीकॉम सेक्टर की बात की, उसमें जिस तरीके से मोनोपोलीज बढ़ रही है, इंडियन इकोनॉमी के लिए कितना सही है? 2 से 3 कंपनियां ही हैं आने वाले समय में, क्योंकि अभी स्पेक्ट्रम जो नीलामी हुई 5G के लिए, उसमें ऑप्शन में भी मोनोपोलीज हो रही हैं।
आपका इसको these are unregulated monopolies. They are not monopolies issued by state, by control. ये मार्केट की वजह से monopolies और मार्केट monopolies जब दुनिया में जब आप प्रोडक्ट क्या करते हैं, प्रोडक्ट बोलते हैं monopoly for 200 years and technology does right now. तो ये monopolies entrenched monopolies नहीं, they are monopolies because of the business model that they have. The day there is those business models either get challenged by another business model. आप सोचिए गाड़ियों की कंपनी है, Honda इस तरह गाड़ी नहीं निकली होती है monopoly एक तरह से आप कह सकते हैं। कोई टेक्नोलॉजी जहाँ भी गवर्नमेंट रेगुलेशन से मोनोपोली होती है, वहाँ इनएफिशिएंसीज आती है। अगर इनएफिशिएंसी होता तो वो प्रॉब्लम। बट टेलीकॉम कंपनी से अपना की राइट नाउ दे विल मोनोपोली, बट इवेंचुअली दे विल हैव कंपटीशन शुड नॉट बी आर्टिफिशियल। ये नहीं होना चाहिए रेगुलेशंस या गवर्नमेंट की डिक्टेट्स।
सर एक और सवाल है, आपने एवरेज इनकम की बात की 1990 के बाद, अभी एक रिपोर्ट आई है, 1% लोगों के पास वो 70% इकोनॉमी पे कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं। अगर देखा जाए तो वर्ल्ड में सेकेंड पे हमें जो अनइक्वल जो डिसबैलेंस इकोनॉमी को, तो क्या लिबरलाइजेशन का एक फेल्यूर रहा। और एक और उसके बाद से आप जब भी 90s के बारे में बात होती है तो मल्टीनेशनल कंपनियों के बारे में बात होती है, देश में बड़े बड़े जो माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक जो माइक्रो फाइनेंस कंपनियां थी वो बर्बाद देखा जाए, तो इस पर आपका क्या कहना और गवर्नमेंट को क्या स्टेप होना चाहिए?
देखिए, आपने पहली बात की इनकम डिस्पैरिटी, तो मैं आपको एक एडवाइस मतलब डेली में एंड एज अ टेलर वी शुड फोकस ऑल्सो ऑन व्हाट वी हैव एंड नॉट व्हाट द अदर। आज एवरेज इंडियन अगर आप 90s की का काम, भूख के ऊपर काल पड़ गया तो ठीक है, डॉक्टर प्रेमचंद की कहानियां पढ़ी, यही होती थी कि भूख अकाल पड़ गया, लोग भूख से मर गए, ड्राउट हो गया, किसान, see the stories have changed. The person at the bottom of the pyramid, he is not talking about bigger facilities. वो आज खाने की शॉर्टेज नहीं है इस देश में, क्योंकि पॉपुलेशन हमारी डबल हो गई. So the point is that the person at the bottom of the pyramid has become rich. Of course, the person at the top of the pyramid has become even more rich. हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव ये नहीं है कि बड़े जो पैसा कमा रहा है उससे कोई पैसा लेके नीचे नहीं काटना. हमें तो जो बॉटम ऑफ द pyramid पे है उसको पहले उसको बेसिक नीड्स है वो पूरी होगी. उसका अब जो अब नीड्स क्या है, देखिए रोटी कपड़ा मकान एक तरह से कपड़ा और रोटी का तो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व होते हैं. आप सुनते नहीं भारत में पूरी समय मकान हो गया. तो पॉइंट क्या है कि अब लोगों की नीड आ रही है एजुकेशन, हेल्थ केयर, दे वांट मोर, शायद हर एक के पास. तो मुझे लगता है अगर आपको लगता है कि जो एवरेज इंडियन है वो एवरेज नीड पर्सन एट द बॉटम ऑफ द he has become better. Hopefully they will become better. And I'm not saying that that is where they should stay. I'm saying they should become better. Yadi hum, if we focus on what the one person is doing, then of course we will have problem. So फिर हमें प्रॉब्लम होगी, हमारे पास क्या है वो हम नहीं करेंगे. तो ये मैंने फोकस slightly political discussion. But my point is that average Indian, you can have a ticket average, you can go into small villages, एक specific नहीं प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है. लेकिन अगर आम भारत को देखें तो आम भारत को पिछले 25-30 साल में ऐसे प्रॉस्पेरिटी है. आम भारत बड़ा है. अब आज हम यहाँ एजुकेशन परस्पेक्टिव आप मैंने नहीं करते कितना मुश्किल था हायर एजुकेशन 8 से 25 साल तक आज हमारे स्टूडेंट और चुनाव को बढ़ाना है. नहीं कर रहे हैं, अगर हम ये उस पर फोकस करेंगे कि ये 2% अमेरिका में भी ऐसा वहाँ पर ऑब्वियसली आप करता हो अमेरिका में भी अमेरिका में लोग मुझसे बढ़ जाते हैं. बट डज नॉट मीन दैट अमेरिका
सर जैसे आपने इकोनॉमी को 3 डिकेड्स में डिवाइड किया है, तो अगर हम लास्ट डिकेड की बात करते हैं अभी जो गया 2010 से 2020 के बीच में पीरियड, उसके अंदर डीमोनेटाइजेशन आया. डीमोनेटाइजेशन आने के बाद जितना पैसा गया उतना पैसा वापस मार्केट में अभी तक आया नहीं है. उसके बाद आप देखो कि ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री पूरी इस टाइम पे डाउन चल रही है. उसके बाद आप पेट्रोल के रेट्स देखो, सब कुछ इस टाइम पे रेट जो इकोनॉमी में हाई है तो वो किस वजह से है और उससे कैसे डील कर सकते हैं.
देखिए सब चीज़ें अलग अलग हैं. ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री की बात करें बिकॉज वो ज़्यादा बड़ा होता है. दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी यूज. इट इज नॉट, इट हैज नथिंग टू डू विद डिमोनेटाइजेशन. डिमोनेटाइजेशन का एक स्टोरी है, मैं पब्लिक प्लेटफॉर्म पे मेरा अपना बिलीफ है फॉर लोग who are in this situation. It was very important. If we had not happened, we would have had very significant impact on the economy. It was a very tough decision. ये आसान नहीं है. मजा नहीं आता किसी को एक सिस्टम को डिस्टर्ब करके एक तो दोनों ने पैसा लिया और टफ पैसा आसान नहीं था. और मुझे ये मालूम है कि वो पैसा उसको लेकिन उसका हालात ऐसे बनते थे उसको अगर नहीं लिया जाता तो इकोनॉमी के ऊपर और 3 नेगेटिव इफेक्ट्स आते हैं. ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री का ये सब चीज़ें चेंज हो रही है. ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री को यदि हम आप एक बात मेरा न्यूज़ जाते जो हो रहा है उसके लिए हम उसको ब्लेम ना करें. तो होता क्या है जब हम ब्लेम करते हैं तो हम चेंज को एक्सेप्ट नहीं करते. आपको चेंज को एक्सेप्ट करना है. यू आर यंगस्टर, आपका मुद्दा ये नहीं है कौन रिस्पॉन्सिबल है कौन नहीं है. तो हमारा पॉलिटिक्स पे नहीं है. हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव है वी हैव टू बी बेटर, वी हैव टू हैव बेटर लाइफ, हैव टू बी बेटर एम्प्लॉयड, हैव टू हैव मोर लर्निंग, हैव टू बी हैप्पियर. आपका फोकस ये होना चाहिए. आप ब्लेम करेंगे तो आज ऑब्जेक्टिव चेंज हो जाएगी. और मैंने जैसे कहा 10 साल में बिल्कुल चेंज हो जाएगी. अगर जो एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगा वो
उसमें फैक्टर ये है कि हम चेंज को एक्सेप्ट तो कर रहे हैं लेकिन उस चीज में हमारा अगर कुछ प्रॉपर्टी नहीं है, हम खुद ही उस चीज में रिसेशन में जा रहे हैं. और एक पॉइंट ऐसा आता है जहाँ पे हमारे पास कुछ है ही नहीं, तो उसके आगे क्या है.
आपको देखिए लाइफ दिस इज द Fact of life.
I believe कि थोड़ा सा कई questions जो आए थे recession को लेके, it has to be clarified that there is no recession.
First of all, I must say, and I hope because I was following the trend.
Sir, I would like to add a little in because most of the questions are pertaining to recession. Students, I have a question for you. If given a choice between higher rate of growth with black money driven economy and little lower rate of growth with lesser black money, which option is better? So probably, sir is referring to the second option. He asked about demonetization. Yes, the growth rate has definitely slowed down. The growth rate has definitely slowed down, but yes, whenever the black money is curbed, the growth rate is bound to become slow. So this is what is happening. Similarly, we are talking about GST. When we go for systemic changes, so then there has to be something. So in Hindi, like we say, कि ऊंची छलांग लगाने के लिए झुकना पड़ता है, isn't it? So therefore, the economy is little slow because of the structural changes. Demonetization is one example, GST is another. It is bound to happen. It has happened wherever structural changes have happened in the world.
Recession. Everybody is concerned about recession.
Okay, silence.
Well, let me. So we follow what is typically called high frequency indicators. आपका headlines पढ़ रहा है newspaper headlines. Invariably, I have been in the media for 30 years. No. Newspaper headlines commit the fact. This is like Hindi film. So police come the time. Newspaper headlines जब stock market जब peak हो जाती है, बिल्कुल crash होने वाले होते हैं. इसकी headline आएगी, market peak हो गई, market में ये हो गया. और typically news में नहीं रहता because that is what general perception is. My own sense is that we follow high frequency indicator. We find no reason to believe that Indian economy is going to recession. It is a period of this what is called U-shaped recovery. So you are looking for V-shape. Economy comes down and then it immediately starts going up. It doesn't happen. आप US का जरूर पढ़िए. 2008 में when they had hit the patch down, it took them 3 years, 4 years to actually come. It was only in 2012-13 that they actually started turning around. And for 4 years, like I said, they kept on pumping money into the economy. Fortunately for US, because their currency is convertible itself, so if their currency does not depreciate, like India, if India were to print more rupees, it would be depreciated. US gets away in more dollars. So don't be concerned about recession. Recession is at the Great Depression of 1929. Everybody talks about the economy. The US economy went down to 25% in those 5 years. So that was a recession. Even that got over in 7 years. So I mean, don't be bothered about this recession thing. We'll grow, we are a growing economy. Have that faith, prepare yourself for it.
डॉक्टर सर मैंने आपकी बात मान ली ठीक है डिमोनेटाइजेशन जीएसटी अभी लेस रेट पे ठीक है मान आगे जाके वो सक्सेसफुल होगा पर जो स्कैम घोटाले रफेल डील ये सब है इनका क्या आर्थिक स्थिति में आज इफेक्ट पड़ता है इनका क्या हाथ है
बड़ा अच्छा सवाल पूछा तो मैं आपको थोड़ा सा याद हिस्ट्री दैट इज व्हाट हिस्ट्री कम्स इन वेरी हेल्पफुल गो बैक टू 1989 और 1990 आप हिंदुस्तान में पढ़ेंगे ना मंडल कमीशन सरकारें नहीं थी आपको बहुत स्टेबल हिंदुस्तान देखना है तो इंडिया भी इंडिया सर 70 80 इस हिंदुस्तान में ना सरकार होती थी और कंप्लीट there was no government there was no certainty that's why people used to go to US everybody wanted to go to US because of उन हालात में अगर हम लोग यहाँ पहुँचे हैं तो आज हालात से बहुत बेहतर हालात मत इस्तेमाल रहिए ये एनर्जी आपको कुछ ट्रैफिक से आपका यू हैव टू टेक योर नेक्स्ट ट्रैफिक से आपको कुछ नहीं होने वो तो जो हो रहा है होता है एज स्टूडेंट because distracted by all this तो हम ब्रेन के में चले जाते हैं तो ब्लैक वेरी या just for condition personal condition focus on that if you read history there were much more problems in 80s and 90s than there are now, and you will find that we have done very well in those periods, and I'm sure we will do better going forward.
Students, please keep quiet. There are a lot of murmurs, and obviously you will not be able to grab what sir is saying. So please maintain silence, and if anybody else is asking a question, that the answer to that question will benefit you as well.
My name is Vishakha. Actually, तो मेरा question है. It's not about like India demonetization economy. My question is about like being an entrepreneur and a lady entrepreneur. तो इसलिए मैं पूछना चाहती हूँ. Actually, I'm working on an idea, on a startup. एक साल से वो startup पे work कर रही हूँ. और I know अभी वो मतलब you know इतना ज़्यादा नहीं है boom पर, but I know I'm damn sure about it कि in a coming days वो बहुत boom पर होने वाला है. So I have to ask the question, like बहुत सारे challenges आते हैं being an entrepreneur in a very young age. So मतलब एक challenge आता है, that is negativity. When you are working on an idea, so everyone around you is like so negative कि नहीं होगा, है ना, और क्यों कर रहे हो, और बहुत लोग नहीं कर रहे हैं. Sir, मतलब बहुत सारी चीजें एक साल से हो रहा है, but still I'm working. So आप expert हो, so I have to ask कि मुझे वो continue करना चाहिए या फिर उस negativity में आकर छोड़ देना चाहिए.
I'm really happy because it's a really relevant question. It's important for everybody. और आपके लिए सवाल हमारे लिए आज भी उठता है जब कोई नया आइडिया लेके आते हैं तो ये पुराना है, आप नहीं करेगा, बेकार है. तो देखिए, if you have conviction in that idea, stick to it. अगर मैं आपको बताऊँ, आपने कभी देखा है सोशल मीडिया में देखी होगी, फेसबुक पे कैसे ग्रो करा, कंपनीज विद सक्सीडिंग they actually work for 10 years, 15 years silently. आज इन्फोसिस जो आप देख रहे हैं, नारायण सर आप पढ़ेंगे ना, वो बताएंगे कि जब उन्होंने शुरू की थी कंपनी, तो they had to import one computer initially, and we had to sit in customer office for 6 months. रोज आते थे customer office, 6 महीने तक वो रोज customer officer के ऑफिस बाहर बैठते थे, एक कंप्यूटर इम्पोर्ट करते. अब उस 6 महीने में उनको किसी को नहीं मालूम था, और he stuck to his conviction. आप अपनी conviction पहला नहीं होगा, तो फॉलो. बट जरूरी नहीं, एक जिद और कन्विक्शन में फर्क है. एक बार हमारा आइडिया अपना फैमिली चेंज योर टैक्टिक्स. इफ समथिंग इज नॉट वर्किंग, उसमें आप देखिए क्या काम नहीं करता, उसको आप मॉडिफाई कीजिए. और यू आर लेडी ऑन्टरप्रेन्योर, जैसे मैं आपको एग्जांपल, लेडी ऑन्टरप्रेन्योर्स के लिए गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से काफी स्कीम्स हैं जहाँ पर वो इजी फंडिंग दे रहे हैं आपको. स्टार्टअप्स के लिए बहुत दे रहे हैं, इकोसिस्टम ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट फैमिली करते हो. अभी अवेयर कि कौन सी स्कीम्स हैं, इन टर्म्स में मुझे पता, तो ये नॉलेज आपको गेन करनी है. व्हेन आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट नॉलेज, दिस इज व्हाट आई मेंट कि आपको अपने इकोसिस्टम की नॉलेज एक्वायर करनी है. व्हाट आर द एंड यू कैन इजीली गेट फंडिंग टू अ सर्टेन लेवल विदाउट एनी रिक्वायरमेंट. दैट स्कीम्स दैट कैन गिव लाइक दैट इन द कार और समथिंग. So there is a startup India, there are a lot of things. First thing is make yourself knowledgeable about this. Then get those schemes to meet the job. और उसको आप देखिए, फेलियर स्टार्टअप्स में ध्यान रखिए, फेलियर्स होंगे, there will be lot of failures. You change your modify. हमने कोई अगर हम उसको जिद पकड़ने के लिए जब लोग कंडीशन करेंगे ऐसा नहीं होगा. If you have the conviction, but let me tell you, 99% people have succeeded after failing many times. If you read Sachin Flipkart's story, he failed in 15 ventures before he came up with it. कोई भी इंसान पहले वेंचर में सक्सेसफुल नहीं हुआ. None of them. They all failed many times. They learned from their failure, make themselves more knowledgeable, and then they grow. It's a very long. ठीक है, आसान नहीं, मुश्किल है. तभी तो कम लोग करता है. ज़्यादा वो आसान रास्ता नहीं है. कोई आसान. If you have the conviction, you strength, go. बट फैमिलियर वर्जन तो आप ये पता कीजिए कि मुझे सपोर्ट करने का इस तरह के आइडियाज को शॉर्ट में की हो, मुझसे मिलिए, दूसरे स्टार्टअप वालों से मिलिए. बी इन दैट इकोसिस्टम. उन लोगों से मिलिए जो स्टार्टअप्स कर रहे हैं. देयर आर लॉट ऑफ कम्युनिटीज देयर. अटेंड देयर वर्कशॉप्स, गो एंड मीट देम, लर्न फ्रॉम देम. ये मेहनत भी है. You have to keep working on this. This is a hard work, long journey.
Yes, next.
हेलो सर, गुड आफ्टरनून। मेरा क्वेश्चन ये कि आपने भी बोला कि हमें स्टार्टअप्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट करने चाहिए, बट हमारी इकोनॉमी की जो अभी कंडीशन है जहाँ पे मैच्योर कंपनी, अगर हम कंपेयर ना करें इंडस्ट्री या सेक्टर को, ओयो वोडाफोन कंप्लीट लॉस में जा रहे हैं। ऐसे में हमें न्यू इन्वेस्टमेंट क्यों करना चाहिए? जो एक्जिस्टिंग इन्वेस्टमेंट है उसे पॉलिश करें, उस रिसोर्स को पॉलिश करें, रादर देन इन्वेस्टिंग न्यू एंड वेस्टिंग देम एज वेल फॉर नेक्स्ट 3 years या 2 years, अब तक वो इन्वेस्ट या ग्रोथ होगी हमारी इकोनॉमी में। तो ये डिसीजन का आई थॉट कि हमें पॉलिश करना चाहिए, बिकॉज इन्वेस्टमेंट करना विल बी अ रिस्क फॉर अस फॉर नेक्स्ट 3 years.
So, see, what is the difference between a Soviet kind of economy and a US economy? Soviet economy क्यों fail हो गई और US economy क्यों succeed? मैं आपको बताऊँ। US economy ने एक trust किया कि markets will decide where capital will be allocated. Markets, nobody decides. कोई सरकार बैठ के decide नहीं करती, कोई मिनिस्टर बैठ के decide नहीं करता कि कौन सी कंपनी चलेगी, कौन सी कंपनी। कोटक अगर कंपनी बंद हो रही थी, उसको बंद होने दिया। They said कि market does not want to, and कोटक की जगह नहीं कंपनी है। इसी तरह अगर आप मार्केट इकोनॉमी को फॉलो करते हैं, यूएस ऐसा नहीं होता। तो यूएस के साथ सोवियत लोग थे, वो कहते नहीं हम बनाएंगे, कौन सी कंपनी बनाएंगे, कौन सी कंपनी बंद करेंगे। वी शुड ट्रस्ट द मार्केट्स, बिकॉज़ मार्केट्स नो वेयर द कैपिटल शुड गो एंड वेयर कैपिटल शुड नॉट गो। मार्केट विल डिसाइड व्हिच कंपनीज हैव बिकम रिडेंडेंट। दोज हु हैव बिकम रिडेंडेंट शुड गो, द कैपिटल शुड बी वाइप्ड आउट एंड न्यू कैपिटल शुड बी एलोकेटेड। अगर आप मार्केट में ट्रस्ट करेंगे, अगर आप कैपिटलाइज करना शुरू करेंगे कि इस कंपनी को बंद नहीं करेंगे, हम वोडाफोन को चलाएंगे, तो आप समझिए इंडिया को चलाते रहेंगे हम, इंडिया में हजारों को चलाते रहेंगे। नो, इंडिया एक जमाने में थी रेलिवेंट, आज नहीं, बंद कीजिए उसको, बात को नहीं। तो आई वुड से ट्रस्ट द मार्केट्स, लेट मार्केट्स एलोकेट कैपिटल, नॉट एन इंडिविजुअल। आई डोंट से गवर्नमेंट डिसाइड, यू डोंट से।
Hello sir, I'm Fazal and I have a question. I mean, if I have a business idea, right, a startup idea. So if I go to an investor and tells my idea about it, so what are the chances? I mean, he can reject me, but he can accept the idea and he can start his own business, right? So what can we do about it?
मैं आपको इन्वेस्टर का बात कहूँ, आप अपनी तरफ से सोचते हैं, ठीक सोच रहे हैं, पर ऐसा होता नहीं है। इन्वेस्टर के पास इतनी I get an idea every day. अगर मैं सारे आइडियाज अडॉप्ट करना शुरू कर दूंगा, तो I will have a problem. The idea is that as an investor, I will only back somebody who knows the idea. See, I am too committed to need the idea. I like the idea, but I am not the person who implement the idea. वो idea आप ही implement करते हैं, मैं implement करता हूँ। मैं तो फाइनेंस, see my expertise is finance. मेरे पास पैसा है, मेरे पास resources हैं, तो मैं वो अपनी resources को best manage करूँगा। मैं आपका बिजनेस नहीं करना चाहता। अगर आपका बिजनेस करने जाऊंगा तो फिर आपका बिजनेस करना शुरू कर दूंगा, मेरा बिजनेस मैं नो इन्वेस्टर। दिस इज अ कंप्लीट रॉन्ग परसेप्शन। इन्वेस्टर्स विल स्टीयर, दे विल नॉट, दे डोंट केयर, दे गेट 100 टाइम्स एवरीथिंग। अब वो उनका बिजनेस फाइनेंस इन्वेस्टर उनका बिजनेस आपके बिजनेस, बट डोंट बी स्केयर अबाउट इट।
I cannot copyright my idea, right? Can I?
See, you cannot copyright an idea, you can copyright a product. Because आपने अपना आइडिया को कॉपीराइट करने का मतलब कोई और आइडिया नहीं कर सकता। आप प्रोडक्ट जैसे यूजर ने अपना सॉफ्टवेयर को, तो राइट शेयरिंग दे कैन नॉट कॉपीराइट, बट दे कैन कॉपीराइट द सॉफ्टवेयर, द सर्विसेज, द प्रोडक्ट दैट दे हैव।
But sir, there are many cases where they just, I mean, big companies do copyright the idea, and if someone goes, I mean, starts a if someone starts a business in that, so they just put a case on that company.
देखिए मैं
There are many big companies like that.
इसमें स्पेसिफिक है बहुत सारे, इतना ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट नहीं है। कई बार पीपल डू सी आइडियाज एंड दे, सो यू नीड अ लीगल फ्रेमवर्क। जैसे आप अपना राइट प्रोटेक्ट करना चाहते हैं, दूसरे लोग को प्रोटेक्ट करना चाहते हैं। समटाइम्स कंपनीज इन्वेस्ट लॉट ऑफ कैपिटल, दे हैव पुट लॉट ऑफ पीपल एंड इट कीप्स हैपनिंग। इन फैक्ट देयर इज अ वेरी वाइड क्लेम कि थॉमस एडिसन नेवर इन्वेंटेड बल्ब को इन्वेंट किया था, बोलते थॉमस एडिसन ने। तो इस तरह की आइडियाज होते रहते हैं। आई एम नॉट, आई डोंट नो द रिजल्ट, नॉट अ बिग इशू। Trust yourself, if you have good idea, you're going to win.
हेलो सर, माय नेम इज शुभम। सर मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है, बताया कि इंडिया में कोई भी आइडिया से आया है जो बाहर से कोई भी आइडिया है जिसको ग्रो करने में टाइम लगता है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल से 10 years, ओके। तो स्टार्टअप का आइडिया फर्स्ट आया 2004 और 2005 में, जो कि अब जाके 14-15 में अपना बूम हो गया। इंडिया एक ऐसी कंट्री है जिसमें काफ़ी ज़्यादा पॉपुलेशन है और उसमें क्रिएटिविटी बहुत ज़्यादा है। बहुत लोगों ने स्टार्टअप किया, बहुत लोग काफ़ी आगे बढ़ गए, बहुत लोग किसी और कंपनी के CEO बन गए। बट करेंट जो हमारा इकोनॉमिक सिचुएशन है, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि हाँ ये हमेशा रहेगा, थोड़ा टाइम के लिए रहेगा, ओके फाइन, अब हो सकता है। बट सर एक कंट्री की जो GDP बढ़ रही है उसमें छोटे मोटे जो इंडस्ट्रीज बढ़ रहे हैं, पर इंडस्ट्री तो ऑब्वियसली वो कंट्रीब्यूट करती है, छोटी मोटी कंपनीज भी कंट्रीब्यूट करती है। बट इस जो इकोनॉमिक सिचुएशन की वजह से जो कंपनी शायद डूब रही है, बिल्कुल माइंड अप हो रही है। अब मैं बीइंग अ पर्सन दिस फैमिली माइंड, तो सर ये दिखने में आ रहा है कि काफ़ी ज़्यादा डिस्पैरिटी हो रही है। जो बड़ी कंपनीज है उनको उतना अफेक्ट हो रहा है, उतना नहीं हो रहा, जो लोअर में थे वो लोअर ही है, बट मिडल वालों को सबसे ज़्यादा अफेक्ट हो रहा है। तो सर अगर मिडल वाले रहे ही नहीं, वो अगर गायब नहीं होते तो वो कंट्रीब्यूट कैसे करेंगे? अल्टीमेटली अगर लोग कंट्रीब्यूट करने के लिए ना ही रहे तो फिर GDP बढ़ेगा। प्लस ये CAA जो भी आया उसमें से भी पॉपुलेशन में थोड़ी बहुत डिवीजन होगा, जिसकी वजह से भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा इफेक्ट करेगा। तो क्या इस मोमेंट पे ये मेरा सीन था?
No, I will not comment on CA because it's a very personal opinion of different people. It's economy. आपने ये बात कही कि देखिए बिजनेसेस अफेक्ट हो रहे हैं, मीडियम बिजनेसेस अफेक्ट हो रहे हैं। मेरा अपना बात कि उसमें भी सारे बिजनेसेस अफेक्ट नहीं हो रहे। देयर आर रीजंस व्हाई बिजनेस गेटिंग अफेक्टेड। काफी बिजनेसेस आपने आसपास देखे जहाँ पर लोन्स बहुत थे, इंडेटेडनेस बहुत थी, वो बिजनेसेस ज़्यादा अफेक्ट हुए। जहाँ पर लोन्स कम थे वो बिजनेसेस कम अफेक्ट हुए। जहाँ पर बहुत खर्चे थे, बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपेंसेस आपने मान सकते हैं बिजनेसेस में, वहाँ पर बिजनेस इफेक्ट ज़्यादा हुए हैं। यहाँ पर खर्चे तो हम पर्सनल लाइफ में कहते हैं कि जब when life goes down, not all the time, sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down. So people who are conservative, who are careful, cautious, अपने खर्चे कंट्रोल करके चलते हैं। Naturally जब डाउनटर्न आएगा तो वो सर्वाइव करेंगे, and then downturn when it turns goes into upturn, they will benefit more because they will be survivors. आप देखेंगे कि जब मीडियम बिजनेस में काफी बिजनेसेस खत्म हो गए और जब हो रहे हैं उनकी तो प्रॉब्लम स्ट्रक्चरल प्रॉब्लम, तो लोन ज़्यादा है उसके, खर्चे ज़्यादा हैं उसके, और देखो वो द सेंस दैट जो इनएफिशिएंट, दिस इज द लॉ ऑफ नेचर। एक आप हम उसको चेंज नहीं कर सकते। आप मैं बैठ के गाइस करूँगा उससे स्मॉल बिजनेस से जब बचने वाले नहीं है, तो जो लॉ ऑफ नेचर है, नेचुरल सिलेक्शन है, मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ कि मैं इस बात को एक्सेप्ट करके उसके लिए तैयार कर सकता हूँ। भाई मेरा प्रॉब्लम है, लोन ज़्यादा है, मैं कैसे लोन करूँगा? तो दैट इज व्हाई स्टार्टिंग बाय सेइंग एंटिसिपेट द फ्यूचर। अगर आप फ्यूचर को एंटिसिपेट नहीं करेंगे, यू आर गोइंग टू बी वर्ल्ड जो एंटिसिपेट नहीं करेगा फ्यूचर को, इज गोइंग टू हैव प्रॉब्लम। And then you can blame anybody. I mean, you can blame the Prime Minister, you can blame Pakistan, you can blame US. The truth is, it will not change your life. You have to change your life. आप अपनी लाइफ को चेंज करने में ध्यान दें। कौन उसके लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल है, उस पर ध्यान कम देंगे तो बेहतर है।
So with that, we come to the end of this session. Thank you so much, sir. Valuable suggestions have been offered by him, and lastly I would like to conclude with one thing that I learned when I was in class 11 when I started studying economics. So we learned at that very beginning that a huge population such as India, it can either be a liability or it can be an asset. And whether you believe it or not, you people, you're still in the process of believing that you're going to become professionals very soon. So believe that you have to become an asset in the next 2 to 3 years once you graduate. Just believe in the concept that you have to become an asset to the economy, not a liability. That's all. I request everyone to now stand up for the national anthem.
अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा, विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा, तव शुभ नामे जागे, तब शुभ आशीष मा